trail deep in the heart of Texas.
And we are talking about Texas and the border. And John, why don't you bring in our great guest here in the studio?
With us today is Governor Abbott from the great state of Texas. And so many things are happening in our country. So many controversies happening between Texas and New York City. And welcome to New York, Governor Abbott.
Great to be back. Thank you so much.
Tell us what the heck is going on in Texas, because you guys are right at the border. You are fighting the world. You tell us.
Sure. Listen, I know here in New York, you all are dealing with the crisis at the border with the number of migrants coming here. The fact of the matter is, your listeners across the country, whether they're in Chicago or L.A. or places in between, they too are dealing with it. But the extent to which people in these large cities across the country are dealing with it is minuscule compared to what we deal with on the border every single day. Let me just give you a couple of pieces of math. Last year, there were 2.3 million people who crossed the border who were apprehended. There were actually more than that, some who were not apprehended. The number of people that came across the border last year was larger than the population of Houston, Texas. This year, there will be even more. There will be more than 2.4 million people coming across the border. In small towns on the border like Eagle Pass, Texas has a population of 28,000 people. In one day, they had about 10,000 people be dumped off in Eagle Pass, Texas. 1/3 of the population were illegal migrants. And as a result, Texas is stepping up and having to take measures that no state has ever taken before. We have deployed the Texas National Guard to build border barriers. These barriers are made out of concertina razor wire that deny illegal entry into the state of Texas. Texas is building its own border wall, the exact same wall that President Trump put up. We are adding in the state of Texas, coming out of Texas taxpayers' pockets to build that wall. We have the Texas Department of Public Safety deployed to the border, and they are, for one, going after cartel activity, but for another, they are making arrests of illegal immigrants who are trespassing in the state of Texas, some of whom they are returning right back across the border. And we're working to crack down on deadly fentanyl. The Texas Department of Public Safety alone has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the entire United States of America. There are untold people alive today because Texas law enforcement took fentanyl off the streets as it was coming across the border. But what we are dealing with is catastrophic numbers. And what happens is when a small town like Eagle Pass has people dropped off in their locations, we are helping them by putting these migrants on buses and sending them to places like New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, L.A., and other locations.
Have you figured out, I mean, I've asked many people, why President Biden is allowing this to happen?
So it's truly insane. Let's first help your audience understand the backdrop. A president can truly secure the border. Just 3 years ago, under President Trump, we had the fewest illegal border crossings in 40 years because of four simple policies: the Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 policy, the end of catch and release, and building the border wall. When Biden was elected, he eliminated all four of those policies and instituted his open border policies. Why he is doing this is literally crazy. The only thing we can conclude is he's trying to appease and appeal to the leftist progressives of the Democrat Party, who for whatever reason think it's to their benefit to have this chaos occurring across the country. We know from the polling data, 2/3 of Americans think that they disapprove of Biden's approach to the border. And I think it could be one of several reasons why Joe Biden will likely lose this upcoming election.
Well, we have 13 or 14 months going to the election, and America has to decide. It's the big decision, I guess, because we'll decide which way our country is going. In addition, I believe in immigration, but I was vice chairman of the Ellis Island Foundation, and the Ellis Island was built for immigration, but we checked people. I want to make sure people are not terrorists. that people are not drug dealers, people are not coming with diseases into our country. And I'm concerned that some of the kids that are going to go to school are going to be sitting next to American kids and might get diseases from them. So all I'm saying is, why isn't there more law and order on allowing these people in? And nobody can give the right answer. I even suggested to Mayor Adams, set up an Ellis Island operation. And we haven't gotten any relief yet.
Yeah. So one thing is clear. Joe Biden has knowingly abandoned law and order. He is completely not enforcing the immigration laws that already exist. I handed Joe Biden a letter listing 5 things that he could do based upon current law in the United States that would deny illegal entry. Listen, you mentioned something very important that your audience needs to know about, and that is under Joe Biden, that there has been a record number of people coming across the border who were on the terrorist watch list. And know this, everybody coming across the border pays money to the cartels. People who are on the terrorist watch list, they pay even more money to not be caught. And if we've caught a record number of people on the terrorist watch list, think of all those who paid extra money to make sure they were not caught. Joe Biden has failed at the fundamental responsibility of national security. There are terrorists who are roaming the streets in the United States because of Joe Biden's open border policies.
Understood. You have important elections coming up in 2024. Have you announced who you're supporting yet?
I haven't. Well, I will be announcing at the appropriate time in a way that will hopefully have the greatest impact on the outcome of the election.
Understood. Any favorites for vice president yet?
None whatsoever.
Understood. Just you guys are tough guys down there, and the business is soaring. People are moving in from California. People are moving in from all over the country because you run a good state. Some of these migrants coming in, are they trying to resettle in Texas?
So,
how does that affect the next vote?
Sure. Well, your first point is the economy in Texas is the best economy in the United States. We last year had about 450,000 people moving into the state of Texas. That's more than 1,200 people a day moving into the state of Texas. Last year, Texas became home to more Fortune 500 company headquarters than any other state. Businesses are growing faster. Texas last year added far more new jobs than any other state in the country. And so business is booming in the state of Texas. Economic opportunity exists in Texas more prolifically than any other state. With regard to the migrants coming in, most are not resettling in Texas. They're going elsewhere in the United States.
Venezuela. President Biden has said the Venezuelans are going to get a special dispensation, and 500,000 of them will be given green cards or whatever he's going to give them. How does that affect things?
So these across-the-board dispensations are illegal. I was the one who ensured that. One of the last lawsuits I brought when I was the Attorney General of Texas before I became Governor of Texas was the DAPA lawsuit that was deferred action for parents who were here illegally. And President Obama had granted them across-the-board amnesty. And we went to the United States Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with us that the president did not have that authority. And a similar ruling came out concerning DACA. And now another lawsuit is going to be filed because of this across-the-board dispensation by President Biden. And it's clearly unconstitutional. The president does not have that authority. Under Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, it's Congress that is given the authority to set the migration rules, not the President of the United States. The President cannot just make it up on the fly as he goes along.
Now, thank you for coming to New York and visiting with us. And as you go down Park Avenue, you're going to see the J.P. Morgan building. It's going to be 1,400 feet tall. But I understand you got more J.P. Morgan Chase employees in Texas than we have in New York. And I scratch my head and I say, will that building ever be full? And I don't think they're leaving Texas.
So J.P. Morgan is expanding rapidly in Texas. So is Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is building a new series of buildings in Texas and downtown Dallas. We will have more Goldman Sachs employees, more J.P. Morgan employees. There will be more employees in the financial sector in Texas than in New York. And so, whether it be the home of finance or other areas, Texas really is the leading sector, so much so. One thing I'm doing while I'm here in New York, I'll be ringing the closing bell tomorrow because Texas is announcing we have our own ETF made up only of companies that have their headquarters in the state of Texas that's performing remarkably well in the stock market.
I'd like to know that. What's that ETF symbol?
TXS. So it's all the letters of Texas without the vowels.
And, wow. We got a minute left. What would you like to tell all New Yorkers and all Americans?
For New Yorkers and Americans who are fed up, who are angry, who are perplexed about what's going on at the border, there's something they can do. First, they need to recognize this is all because Joe Biden has abandoned any pretense of the rule of law. Second, they must demand that Joe Biden reinstate the rule of law, enforce the immigration laws, stop illegal immigration into the United States, and vote accordingly in the next election.
Last question. You're in New York today. Are you going to meet with Mayor Adams?
So I've got a full slate. We'll see what happens over the course of the day. I got meeting after meeting after meeting. We'll see if we have time.
Thank you so much, Governor, and you have a great state. Look forward to visiting real soon. I think my son will be there this weekend. And
there you go.
God bless you, God bless Texas, and God bless America.
Thank you so much.